That I was just, living in this shame, living in all this sort of stuff of my past, and I wasn't able to move on. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second.
Absolutely gonna testify. I won't even say his name. He is an evil being and is going to pay.
Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time.
The courtroom froze. Diddy's calm mask shattered in an instant. His hands balled into fists, his jaw locked tight, and the air grew thick with unease. Then came the name that pushed it all over the edge: Justin Bieber. That was the trigger. The exact second Diddy unraveled, day 2 of the trial, and the news had just broken that Bieber had gone public, standing with Cassie. The room didn't stay quiet for long. Just security rushed in. Chaos followed, and what happened in the next few moments left even the judge visibly shaken.
I think the person that the you of then was on a path of self-destruction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully. But yeah, just protecting those moments, because people take for granted encounters and
Wow! I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. That was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful...
Bieber turned 15, and it suddenly seemed that Hollywood was keen to almost initiate him. I think that's the right word. Like, there was almost like this initiation that he needed to go through. So I want you to be now super uncomfortable and watch this video of an interaction between him and none other than Diddy. Take a listen.
Justin, you ever seen the movie For the Times of Their Lives? Like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
Signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full.
Young Justin Bieber, who was signed by Usher, involved with Scooter Braun. Now all of a sudden he's being put in the hands of Diddy, who, it is true, he became the legal guardian for Usher. You can look up all of the allegations of what Diddy did. The allegations are essentially that Diddy very much initiated Usher. As we are going through these lawsuits and Diddy is in prison, we are recognizing that everybody knew this was an open secret about what Diddy was doing. So it just begs the question, who allowed Justin Bieber to be in the presence of this man, knowing what he was up to, allegedly up to? That seems to be very...
2 opened with this strange, eerie calm. Diddy entered the courtroom flanked by his top-tier legal squad, exuding fake confidence. But if you looked at his eyes, really looked, something was off. He kept glancing around, like he expected someone to jump out from the shadows. Security wasn't routine that morning either. It was beefed up around Diddy's table, noticeably. One guard stood directly behind his chair. Another planted himself in the aisle. It didn't feel like protection. It felt like prevention, like somebody tipped them off that trouble was coming. Then Cassie arrived, and everything shifted. She wasn't dressed to impress, but she made an impact. A black dress, white collar, minimal, but it spoke volumes. Her friends closed in around her like a human shield, guiding her to her seat like they were protecting royalty. It was the ultimate contrast. Diddy, wrapped in hired muscle. Cassie, surrounded by people who actually cared. But here's where things got even more off. Diddy wouldn't stop checking his phone. He kept pulling it out, scrolling fast, eyes narrowing. With every swipe, his face darkened. Finally, his lead attorney reached over and physically took the phone away. That's when I noticed it. Diddy's hand was shaking. Meanwhile, the prosecution was acting real strange too. They weren't calm, they were charged. Whispering behind binders, passing digital tablets back and forth. One prosecutor showed something to another and they both nodded, like the final piece of a puzzle just clicked into place. They knew something. Diddy's lawyer tried talking him down 3 separate times before the judge even showed up. He leaned over, whispered in his ear, even placed a hand on his back. But Diddy kept shrugging him off, hard. At one point, he shoved the guy so suddenly the lawyer had to grab the table to stay upright. When the judge finally entered, her expression said everything. Yesterday, she looked composed, almost casual. Today, she looked like a school principal who'd just caught wind of a major prank about to blow. Her eyes went straight to Diddy. Then she leaned to her clerk and whispered something. The clerk nodded and immediately picked up the phone. No one in the courtroom knew it yet, but Diddy had just seen something on social media minutes earlier. Something that would push him over the edge. His team had tried to snatch the phone in time, but it was too late. He saw it. The Justin Bieber post. And that was all it took. The bailiff called the room to order, but the air was thick with unease. You could feel it building. Even the jury felt it. One juror started shaking as she reached for a water cup, her hand barely steady. Diddy sat at his table, his leg bouncing, a vein pulsing across his forehead. His lawyer kept sliding legal documents in front of him like a distraction. But Diddy wasn't reading. He was staring into space, breathing hard, like a volcano ready to blow. Everyone could feel it coming. Nobody knew what would spark it, or how ugly it might get. The ticking of the courtroom clock grew louder with each second. And just like that, Diddy's polished image was about to explode, right there, in front of everyone.
Yeah, so, I just want to protect her, you know? I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, you know, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, if she ever needs me, I mean, just think about how young I was and so impressionable. And you have everybody telling me how awesome I am at all times, you know, and like.
Yeah. It's like taking a kid and putting a kid in a room full of nothing but sweets.
Right.
And just saying, I'll be back in 2 days.
Exactly. I just want people to understand, like, the psychology behind why I potentially could have problems in my life.
Let's talk about the fact that Combs' co-defendant in a civil case, a case, by the way, that accuses him and this co-defendant, another A-lister, of rape. This guy is once again slamming the attorney behind the case, insisting that he be sanctioned for allegedly not doing his job. We're talking, of course, about Sean Carter, better known as Jay-Z, once again calling out attorney Tony Busby, calling out his character, more specifically into question, claiming that the Texas attorney's filings have, quote, substantial. Now, we've talked about this before, but basically, a civil lawsuit was filed against Sean Combs on behalf of a Jane Doe who says that she was raped by Combs and another celebrity at a home after the Video Music Awards in 2000.
While the courtroom chaos had everyone's attention, something seismic was happening outside those walls. Out of nowhere, Justin Bieber detonated a social media bomb that no one saw coming. Right in the middle of the trial proceedings, Bieber posted a public statement in full support of Cassie, and the ripple effect hit like a tsunami across the music industry. And straight into that courtroom. This wasn't just headline fodder, it was personal. Why? Because Bieber and Diddy weren't just industry colleagues. They had history. Everyone remembers those old clips. Teenage Bieber, wide-eyed, hanging, around Diddy at parties. Diddy used to proudly call himself Bieber's big bro, claiming he helped mold Justin's career. So when this message dropped, bold, specific, and brutally honest, it landed like the ultimate betrayal. And no, this wasn't your typical sending thoughts and prayers celebrity PR fluff. Bieber got raw. He talked about his own experience firsthand. He recalled moments where Diddy allegedly grabbed Cassie's arm too forcefully at a 2015 after-party. He described watching Diddy silence Cassie during interviews, interrupting her, speaking over her. These weren't secondhand whispers. These were his own eyes, his own regret. As soon as court broke for recess, Bieber's post spread like wildfire. In the hallway, clusters formed instantly. People huddled around phones. A court officer had to issue a reminder to shut off devices before returning. Paralegals printed out screenshots and rushed them to their teams. Even jurors looked puzzled, clearly picking up on the wave of hushed chatter. The post wasn't just text either. It included a striking throwback photo. Bieber and Cassie at a music event, both smiling. But if you zoomed in on Cassie's eyes, there was a sadness people hadn't noticed back then. Bieber's caption hit hard. "I've always admired Cassie's strength. I should have spoken up sooner." And for Diddy? The timing was catastrophic. Within minutes, over 270 million people had seen that post. News outlets pounced. Live updates, push alerts. What was once just courtroom drama suddenly became a global spectacle. This wasn't just one pop star chiming in. This was a major figure throwing weight behind a victim in an active trial. Reporters lost it. One literally bolted out of the courtroom to phone her editor. Another typed like her fingers were on fire. A network anchor mouthed across the gallery, "Did you see it?" They all knew. This flipped the entire public perception of the case. The whispers got deafening. A bailiff had to scold people just to quiet down. Phones kept flashing. Faces were stunned. Some eyes locked on Diddy, waiting to see his reaction. Others turned to Cassie, who sat still, unmoved, composed as ever, even though she had to know what was happening. What made Bieber's post so powerful was his wording. He didn't just throw support, he confessed. He called Cassie brave, said the things he saw years ago made him deeply uncomfortable, but he hadn't recognized the pattern back then. He even admitted being disappointed in himself for not speaking out sooner. Diddy's defense team saw the storm coming. One lawyer jumped up first, trying to block Diddy's view of another phone. He whispered fast, ordering all devices off the table. But it was too late. Someone had already shown Diddy the post. His eyes locked on the screen. He read it. They widened, and right then, the change in his face was undeniable. Everyone near him saw it happen in real time. There was no coming back from this.
16 years old, and I should mention he was signed by Usher to a label that was owned jointly by both Scooter Braun and Usher, and he was considered Usher's protege. He has been described Usher as his mentor. Justin Bieber, is continuing the purge. He has now moved to his original mentor. So this is a very big story, and the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing, Hollywood Babylon that is. He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music, and he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish, and he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry, and sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion. Take a listen.
Yeah, I definitely feel protective of her. It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me, but at the end of the day, I don't want to never gonna force myself to be in relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing, and if she ever needs me, I'm gonna be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted.
I'm not even kidding. Watching that clip makes me emotional because he is saying so much without really saying anything. Protect Billie Eilish from what? From who?
When Diddy laid eyes on Bieber's post, it was like watching a man short circuit. His face shifted instantly. Total shock washed over him, mouth slightly open, eyes wide like headlights. Then came the realization. His brows furrowed as the betrayal sank in. But the most chilling moment? When that disbelief turned into pure fury. His nostrils flared. His jaw locked so hard it looked painful. One woman, seated 3 rows back, later told reporters his hands began to tremble violently. He tried to grab some documents from his attorney, but his grip failed. The papers slipped right through his fingers and scattered all over the floor. That's when people started watching. Not glancing. Watching. The real warning came next. Diddy suddenly stood. Not a calm stretch your legs kind of stand. This was sharp, sudden, and tense. A nearby bailiff, who had clearly been keeping a close eye on him, immediately stepped forward. This wasn't their first time dealing with someone about to snap. Then Diddy spoke, loud enough for those in front rows to hear him. After everything I did for that kid, so much for loyalty. And something else, something darker, about consequences. His lawyer reacted fast, grabbing Diddy by the arm and yanking him back into his seat. He whispered urgently, trying to calm him down. But Diddy wasn't listening. His breathing was heavy, erratic, like he'd sprinted up 10 flights of stairs. The court sketch artist captured it all, and the drawings were disturbing. The wild eyes, the tight jaw, the thick veins crawling up his neck. One artist even told reporters it was the most intense face she'd drawn in over a decade of covering trials. Across the aisle, prosecutors weren't missing a beat. The lead prosecutor gave a discreet hand signal to her assistant, who quietly slipped out the side door. We'd later learn she was rushing to bring in a surprise witness, someone directly connected to the claims in Bieber's post. Security wasn't sleeping either. 2 guards exchanged glances, no words, just eyes, and subtly moved closer to Diddy's table. One of them even unclipped something from his belt, not drawing it, but ready, just in case. Everything about Diddy had changed. On day 1, and even earlier that morning, he'd been calm, poised, even smug. Now he couldn't sit still. He ran a hand over his face. He loosened his tie like it was choking him. And then, bam. He slammed his palm down on the table. A glass of water toppled and shattered across the floor. People jumped in their seats. Diddy leaned forward and muttered, loud enough for court reporters to catch, "He'll never work in this industry again. Neither of them will." His lawyer immediately wrapped an arm around Diddy's shoulders, trying to keep him grounded. The judge had seen enough. She slammed the gavel and called for a 15-minute recess. But that break? It didn't help. It gave Diddy time to spiral further, while his legal team huddled in panic. And when the session resumed, it was Cassie's moment. Only now, she wasn't the same woman from day 1. She walked to the witness stand with her shoulders squared, chin raised, no more downward glances. She looked directly at the jury, and she didn't flinch at Diddy. Then came the evidence. Never before seen text messages between her and Diddy. In one 2016 exchange, he sent 17 messages in a row, demanding to know why she hadn't answered. Another message asked her for the exact room number she was staying in. "I need to know where you are every minute. That's the deal if you want to keep your career." The courtroom went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the ceiling fans. Then Cassie described how he kept tabs on her, restricted who she could even talk to. There were male artists I wasn't allowed to speak to unless he was standing right there, she testified. When Ibar asked for an example, she said, Justin Bieber was one of them. And when she dared question the rule, he grabbed my arm at an after party, in front of everyone. He whispered that I'd regret it. Cassie's voice didn't crack, not once. She was steady, clear, determined. Her story echoed everything Bieber had just shared. The surveillance, the control, the veiled threats. Even though Cassie stated they hadn't spoken in years, her details aligned almost perfectly with Bieber's. When asked why she'd stayed silent for so long, her answer was brutal. He told me no one would believe me. He said he decides who wins in this business and who disappears, and I watched him end careers over a phone call. 2 jurors physically reacted. A woman wiped her eyes. An older man wrote a note and underlined it 3 times. Then came the knockout moment. Prosecutors played hotel surveillance footage from 2018. Cassie was seen trying to chat with a male artist in a hotel lobby. Diddy appeared, wrapped an arm around her, and escorted her away. The body language was chilling. It matched her testimony exactly. Diddy leaned into his lawyer, visibly panicked, whispering and pointing at the screen. Cassie kept going, listing specific moments with precise dates and locations. March 8, 2017, Standard Hotel, NYC. June 22, 2017, his mansion in Miami. September 12, 2018, backstage at the VMAs. Each mention sent. Diddy's legal team scrambling through files. Cassie then revealed that since Bieber's post, people had started contacting her legal team. My phone hasn't stopped. People who were scared before are ready to come forward. They want to share what they saw. And then, the line that broke Diddy. Cassie testified that after speaking to Bieber at a party years ago, Diddy had pulled her aside and whispered, "Even Justin knows what happens to people who cross me." With Justin now backing her publicly, that statement suddenly became evidence, a threat that echoed across the courtroom. As she kept talking, you could physically see Diddy unraveling. Each connection to Bieber's post made him twitch, mutter, whisper to his attorney. The confident mogul? Gone. What was left was a man unraveling in real time, under the world's microscope.
And weeks after the initial filing, Busby submitted an amended complaint naming Jay-Z as the celebrity who allegedly participated. They wanted copies of these videos for themselves. And I've talked to lawyers about this before. There's a big advantage to having the electronic video, the electronic evidence yourself, right? You don't have to always go over to the other office. You can view the materials on your own. It's a way to better prepare for your defense. And Sean Combs' lawyers argued that under the federal rules of criminal procedure, electronic data that is in the government's possession, Judge Subramanian denied the defense's motion to amend the protective order, but without prejudice, meaning this issue could be revisited. So Subramanian's order reads, quote, "While the government objects to handing the videos over, they provide several options for a defendant to consider that would permit the defense to view the videos, access the information they're looking for, and even allow them to manipulate the video."
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they loved me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters, and I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. Yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
Do you realize how important your story is? Every time I have a conversation with someone who's been through this unique type of experience, I'm searching for some kind of truth that can help.
I commend you for going there and asking the tough questions and the things that people don't want to talk about, and they don't want to go there because it's revealing, and I want people to take a look at my story, and hopefully my words can
Just when it felt like the day couldn't possibly escalate any further, the prosecutor calmly stepped forward holding a folder. "Your Honor," she began, "we're prepared to present evidence that directly disputes Mr. Combs's claim that Ms. Ventura fabricated her allegations." Then, with a deliberate pause, she pulled out a tablet and connected it to the courtroom's display system. Instantly, every screen in the room came alive, and the contents made jaws drop. Displayed were text messages between Justin Bieber and Cassie, dated 2017. The prosecution zoomed in on one conversation, and it hit hard. Cassie had written, "I don't know what to do anymore. He's watching everything." And then, "He said if I talk to anyone, he'll make sure I never work again." Bieber's response read, "This isn't normal, Cass. What he's doing is not okay. You need to talk to someone before it gets worse." The courtroom practically held its breath. Several jurors leaned forward in their seats, eyes locked on the screen. That's when it happened. Diddy leapt up from his chair. The screech of wood, dragging across the floor, jolted everyone. His face was flushed red, his eyes wild and wide. Gone was the composed mogul. In his place stood a man unhinged. His attorney lunged to restrain him, whispering loud enough for the front row to hear. "Sean, don't do this. Please." But Diddy shoved him off, hard. The lawyer stumbled backward. "This is all lies," Diddy shouted, jabbing a finger toward Cassie. "You know damn well that's not what happened. Where's your loyalty? After everything I did for you." His voice grew louder with each word. "You're making all of this up. Both of you." The judge didn't hesitate. Her gavel pounded 3 times, sharp and commanding. "Mr. Combs, sit down immediately, or you will be removed from this courtroom," she warned. But Diddy kept going. 2 security officers were already on the move. One positioned himself between Diddy and Cassie. The other closed in from behind. Court reporters typed at full speed, trying to capture every second of this meltdown. The jury? Stunned. An older woman covered her mouth in shock. A younger man leaned away from Diddy like he feared what might come next. "Your Honor, we need a recess," Diddy's lawyer pleaded, desperately trying to regain control. But Diddy turned back to the screen, waving at the messages. "Those are fake," he bellowed. "Completely fabricated. Justin never said that. This is a setup." But it was too late. The damage had been done. These old texts from years ago directly contradicted Diddy's narrative. Cassie had been confiding in Bieber about the exact same behavior long before lawsuits or media coverage. This wasn't about money or clout. This was a pattern. The judge banged the gavel again. "Clear the jury," she instructed the bailiff. 12 stunned citizens filed out, but not before stealing glances at the man now unraveling in front of them. 2 guards flanked Diddy. One placed a hand gently but firmly on his shoulder. "Sir, you need to calm down," he said. For a split second, it looked like Diddy might push him too, but instead, he fell silent, breathing heavily, reality sinking in. His carefully polished image, years in the making, had just been shattered in full public view. With the jury gone, Judge Marlowe didn't mince words. She stood, pointed straight at Diddy, and delivered the hammer. "Mr. Combs, this is a courtroom, not a recording studio. You do not control what happens here." Her voice was ice. "One more outburst like that, and I will hold you in contempt. You'll finish this trial from a holding cell and only appear when required." She wasn't done. She ordered a psychiatric evaluation before the next hearing. New security protocols kicked in immediately. 2 officers would remain within arm's reach of Diddy at all times. Even his legal team couldn't speak with him without a guard present. All of his phone privileges? Gone. At the defense table, Diddy's lawyers looked like a team on the brink of collapse. One paced in a corner, furiously making calls. Another scribbled notes with frantic energy. The head lawyer just sat there shaking his head, his expression screaming, "We just lost everything." When the jury finally returned, their body language was different, visibly colder. A woman in the front row shifted her chair slightly, away from the defense table. An older juror who'd been taking notes all day now sat still, arms crossed, pen untouched. And juror number 8? The same one who had smiled at Diddy on day 1? She wouldn't even look at him now. The prosecution, meanwhile, played it cool, but you could see it in their faces. This was a win. The lead prosecutor calmly straightened her papers, shooting the occasional glance toward Diddy. Her assistant even had to suppress a smile behind her hand. Security was now blatantly serious. 2 guards stood stiffly behind Diddy, no attempt to blend in. Another posted up at the exit, hand resting on his belt. The message was clear. We're not letting him erupt again. Legal experts in the gallery were whispering furiously. A retired federal prosecutor leaned over and said, "He just torched his case." A well-known defense attorney muttered, "Amateur hour." And through it all, Cassie didn't move. She sat tall, back straight, hands folded, face neutral. Even when Diddy exploded, she didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't give him the satisfaction of a reaction. The contrast was stunning. Her calm versus his chaos. Her strength versus his unraveling. By the end of day 2, the difference from that morning was dramatic. Diddy had entered with swagger, designer suit, confident grin. Now, he shuffled out, tie loosened, eyes low. His legal team looked like they'd aged a decade in a few hours. One final moment sealed the shift. His main lawyer placed a hand on Diddy's back to guide him out. And just like that morning, Diddy shrugged him off. But this time, it wasn't ego. It was defeat. What played out in that courtroom wasn't just a legal battle. It was a character reveal. Cassie stood tall. Diddy crumbled. And the moment Justin Bieber chose to speak, the whole game changed. Let's be real. That outburst? That was probably the moment this case was decided. The only question now, who's next? Because Bieber didn't just support Cassie. He broke the celebrity silence. And now that door's wide open for others to walk through.